So welcome to the first ever Real Life Sales World YouTube interview. I'm extremely excited, slightly nervous to have our first guest who's been carefully selected after maybe 7 or 8 others turned it down, no, I'm only joking age, to come on the show and have a real life discussion about sales. This channel's all about talking about the real world of sales, not the fluff, not the bullshit. This is what really happens in terms of the worlds of salespeople and sales leaders. And as I say, I'm delighted to have somebody who I would class as one of the most straight talking and has probably seen most things that go on in the sales world, good, bad and ugly. Mr. Howard Young, the global head of partnerships for Convera, somebody who I've known for, I was counting these years earlier, H, would you believe it? It's nearly 11 years since we met.
Is it, yeah?
Yeah, 11 years.
You look just the same as you did then, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I would have said a little bit chubbier around the cheeks, but yeah, I'll take that.
Aren't we all?
And, you know, I'll throw back the compliment. You look nearly the same. In fact, you actually look better. I will give you that. You look better now than when I first met you.
Oh, thanks, mate. I'll take that.
So we're going to get into various different discussions today. The point of these interviews are that they're unscripted. We're not sort of going down particular topics or discussion points. We've got some rough ideas of what we want to talk about today. But we'll just see where the discussion leads us. And I'm just going to do a quick introduction, H. I'm not going to steal your thunder because I want you to introduce yourself properly. But Howard's somebody that I've known, as I've just said, for about 11 years. And we started working together at Western Union Business Solutions in relatively strange circumstances, in that I didn't work for Howard directly, but kind of did work for him directly, and we'll get into that in a little while in the discussion. But Howard's one of the best leaders, sales leaders that I've ever worked for. That's the nicest thing I'm going to say about you on this call, H. And he's somebody that I've looked up to for a number of years now, looked to for advice, looked to for guidance, looked to for ways to improve as a sales leader. And somebody who's helped me significantly in my career. So very grateful for you coming on today, H. And with that, I'll hand over to you to do a proper introduction and just give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you've done.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I think you forgot to mention how I've improved your golf skills as well with my exceptional coaching.
I'm not sure that's entirely true, because the coaching around golf, H, that you've given me pretty much consists of stitching me up on handicaps and just giving me constant abuse about when I hit it 30 yards left off the tee. So I'm not fully in agreement with that, but I'll let you carry on.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll get a chance to pick up on that later. But yeah, thanks for the intro, Grace. I genuinely mean it. Yeah, it's good to hear. So look, I've been in sales for pretty much all my life. I left school, always wanted to be a hotel manager, went into hospitality for a bit. I was working behind a bar. I ended up managing pubs for a couple of years as a very young guy, which is technically selling, right? Relationship building with the locals, sure, with the regulars, serving customers. And then the hospitality industry with a young family, and I was a young guy as well, 20 years old with a son. That just didn't fly, so I needed to do something else. And like many people with sales, I didn't really have a plan. Didn't know what to do, and sales just sort of came to me. I went for a few interviews, a few road debt collection agencies and a few other bits and pieces, and ended up in a call centre working for a bank selling personal loans way back when, which, traditional, think of a call centre, right, with headphones on, predictive dialer system. They did a 6-week induction, which I say all along was the trigger really for my sales career. I don't think I'd be where I am today had I not done that and gone there. Okay. Right, an intensive 6-week induction in a classroom taught me how to sell, because they took anyone in all honesty, because it was not special back then. But yeah, taught me how to sell, introduction, building rapport, handling objections, features, linking features with benefits, not just telling them how good it is, telling them why it's good. Closing, trial closing, all of that through this training program. And then they threw us on the phones, and you'd stick this thing on your head, and every now and again, somebody would come into your ears and you'd start talking to them and try and sell them a personal loan. For them to, improve their house, book a holiday, consolidate their debts, right? All that other good stuff. Maybe with a bit of credit insurance as well on it, which, was a lot of the press in recent time. Not guilty, Your Honour. All good, all above board. But yeah, phenomenal opportunity to get into sales. And the sales floor I was on was probably the size of 3 football pitches. Yeah. Right. And there was like 6 floors of them in this building in Chester. And it was awesome. The camaraderie, the team spirit, the celebration of a win, the pain of a loss, all the great things about sales. and then wanted to get into field sales. So 5 years later, found a local company to me doing.
Why was that age? So what was your driver to get into field sales?
I think it's probably a natural evolution as a young
Sure.
guy. I'd done really well as a telesales. I'd got to a team leader, supervisor role.
Yeah.
Didn't really fancy that. Again, I was very young at the time, dealing with people's issues left, right, and centre, and I was just trying to be a salesperson. And then, so yeah, not wanting to be a sales leader at that time in my career, the next step really in the profession for me was to get out on the road and
Yeah, of course.
Get in a nice company car and get out there.
That's what I was getting at. Was that there's the natural expectation or kind of progression path from telesales, but quite often sitting behind it are the drivers that sit within all us salespeople, the material things. We've got to probably be honest that there are some materialistic traits to salespeople, and company cars and driving around in a nice car and having the commission checks and all that kind of stuff are part of it. Yeah.
For sure, mate. Yeah. I was a young guy bringing up a family, and I had a mortgage. I think I bought every single piece of equipment in my house on HP.
Yeah.
Right? Buy now, pay later. I was earning at the bank £8,700 a year. Right.
Wow.
Plus a little bit of commission here and there, so I was probably taking home 12 grand a year.
Yeah.
And I got a mortgage and a telly and a couch and a washing machine and a dryer, all on HP. So yeah, I needed to keep going. And sales is a great way to do that, of course, because the more you put in, generally, the more you get out.
Sure.
And I got this chance with this local privately run company. It was a husband and wife couple who ran a software training business in North Wales. And they'd done something quite cool in that they converted a load of old coaches and turned them into mobile classrooms.
Okay.
And basically, it was when Microsoft was just coming to the boil, so businesses were bringing in Microsoft but didn't know how to use it. And so I used to basically sell the Microsoft software training courses on site but off site, because we'd drive the coach to their premises, sit in the car park. So
interesting. That's quite an interesting business.
It was cool, yeah. I mean, by the time they had one customer when I joined. By the time I left, they were turning over £1 million a year. We had 8 coaches. We had 2 HGV converted. I had a sales team of 8, a couple of account managers. I was basically running the business again as a 27, 28-year-old here now. It was awesome. My first day, I sat on their dining room table in their house, because that's where my office was, on a farm in Flint, and I basically had a big pile of blue cardboard like that, right? And I designed my own flyer on Word, which I didn't know how to do, bought myself, and yeah, knocked these flyers out and did mail slots, bashed them out in the post, because I didn't have email. Email was just coming then. Yeah, and followed up with phone calls, cold call.
So it's quite an interesting point there to touch on, and a good one for discussion, actually. So you talked a couple of minutes earlier about your induction at the bank, and how good that was, and the foundations that built for selling. And I think it's something that a lot of the stuff that I'm focusing on with Real Life Sales World is about is how do new starters succeed or fail. And it sounds like that you had a really good set of foundations at the bank, and then I think the transition into a smaller field sales role, but I don't think field sales is particularly pertinent in terms of the point here, but the smaller business that hasn't got that structure around you as a salesperson to provide you with the training, provide you with the materials, as you've just said. How did you find that, and were there any sort of times of nervousness or thinking, what have I done here, walking into that role and comparing it to what you experienced at the bank?
I would say every day as a salesperson, you have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And
Of course you do, yeah.
Today doing this with you now and listen to the introduction you made for it, and I'm like, is that really me? I'm just a simple guy, right? And I've gone about my life, and I've done all right. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the room. And the thing about when I was at the bank, they taught me how to sell.
Yeah.
Right. And then they taught me the products.
Yeah.
Which was great. When I recruit people now, I'm trying to recruit people who know how to sell, and then I can teach them the products.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference, right? So if you're taking a punt on it, and we do graduate development, and you've been here when we brought grads to the organisation. Sure. It's a longer return. A seasoned salesperson is worth their weight in gold. Somebody who knows the rules of the game, right, and is excited by the challenge. And like I do, sales is the greatest profession on earth, I think, outside of a professional golfer. And maybe a footballer.
Which you're working your way well towards with your recent handicap drops,
Yeah, exactly. But as a profession, we can out earn any other profession out there really in the professional services space. it's what we put in is what we get out of it, and generally hard work sometimes doesn't equate into reward. Here in sales, it really, really does. You get a bit lucky as well along the way, but
of course,
the harder you work, the luckier you get. So I basically, obviously going for the interview for the job at the software training company, I position myself as a seasoned salesperson because that's what we do.
Of course, you have to, yeah.
Salespeople are quite good at interviews.
I've had a few convince me in interviews, mate, that they were good salespeople. We'll touch on that later.
Okay, open that door if you wish, but that could be a brutal conversation. But it's the hardest part of the job because salespeople are good at selling themselves generally. And so I just needed them to help me to understand what they wanted. And then really my remit was go get it. It was very unstructured, but that suited me at the time.
I was going to say, did you like that? Did you enjoy that? Because that'll be daunting for some people, but an opportunity for others.
Yeah, I knew what I was going into. I say it was a husband and wife. She was the trainer, and he was the techie guy and the salesperson. So taking on that sales function for the organisation was dead exciting. I loved it. I think I got a pay rise to 15 grand a year for this job.
Wow,
right? So
double.
Almost double my money, exactly. And I got a Honda Accord company car, which was pretty cool. And I could earn commission uncapped. So I think I probably did 40, 50k first year.
Brilliant.
Honestly, it was awesome. But it wasn't easy because you had to do the hard yards, right?
Yeah.
So printing out a load of blue pieces of cardboard with the company name on and why people should meet me, then cold calling them. But yeah, the structure was my structure that I could build.
Yeah.
And then it's what I often think about this actually. If I knew then what I know now about sales leadership, that company when I left would have been worth millions because I was winging it a little bit and deal by deal, sale by sale, being successful. But I'd love to have been able to implement some of the stuff that we do now, sales management, things like a new business triangle.
Yeah. Well, we're going to. I mean, that's one of the discussion points that we've got planned for today is how the world of sales has changed. So we'll come back to that. But I guess just the overriding point there is that's just life, isn't it? You've got to cut your teeth. You cut your teeth at the bank. That built the foundations that allowed you to then move into the field sales role. And you were talking about salespeople now that you look to recruit, and albeit you're in partnerships now, but similar sort of thing. You're looking for experienced people, but they've got to cut the teeth somewhere. They've got to make those mistakes somewhere. They've got to learn the foundations, to learn the basics, learn what works, what doesn't somewhere. And ultimately, you don't want them to do that in your business, in your team, but they've got to do it somewhere.
I mean, I've turned many people down for a sales role that I just know are going to be rock stars. Yeah. Right. I just know it, but I can't afford for them to have their breeding ground with us at that particular time. Yeah. I needed them to go away. And there's a guy I know who I've known him for many years anyway. I know him personally, but he came in looking for a job, and I couldn't give him one. But he ended up going into our demand gen team in Peterborough. He relocated to Peterborough. Yeah, did the role of a demand gen. Then he went for a role as a BDE with us, right? And he wasn't quite ready, but he was ready. But he wasn't quite ready, but he was. So
I think I know who you're talking about. We won't mention his name, but I think I know who you're talking about.
He's a good lad. He's sharp. He's a brilliant salesperson. Before he did that with us, he'd been knocking out nightclub tickets in Ibiza. Right? So the rawest form of sales.
Well, I challenge that. I did timeshare telesales and also door knocking for gas and electric and double glazing. So I would challenge.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, there's a few in there in that category, I guess. But yeah, he went away now, and I look at him now, and he's been around a couple of the shops, and he's got his own business now, and he's absolutely flying. And I always knew he would. Yeah. But I just couldn't. The need for shorter term win at the time just didn't work with us.
So back to you then, H. So you left that business after turning them single-handedly into £1 million business.
Not quite, but yeah, pretty much.
We'll go with that for the tape, mate. We'll go with that. I'm happy to put that on the record.
I'll take that. Yeah, exactly. And then I was leading a sales team at this point. So I've got 8 sales reps working for me. I've got a couple of account managers, and I'm winging it because what I've not had at this point at all was any form of sales management training or.
So whereas you had it for sales, the salesperson's position at the bank, you've now been plunged into a leadership position or a management position with zero training around it.
Zero.
Okay. Which is quite a common thing, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It was organic. It just happened. It wasn't like me driving to get to this point. It just as the business evolved, I couldn't do it all on my own, so I needed to bring people in. Yeah. I started bringing people in, and the next thing I'm doing one-on-ones and performance reviews and Then this one day we had this blow up about the new bonus plan or something like that. And I can't remember the specifics, but it kicked off, and I just went home to my missus and I said to Jan, "Bloody hell, I've cocked up there because I'd done something, rolled something out in it. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, all hell broke loose, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm 28 at this point, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I want to just carry my own bag and do my own sales." So at that point, I decided. It wasn't just because I'd made a cock up, because we all them, and that's not the end of the world. But yeah, deep down, I wanted to be back on the road again, and I wanted to be back selling, not managing. I was spending too much time doing performance reviews and signing off expenses.
I think the point you just sort of touched on it there. I think it's something that a lot of sales managers feel when they first move into the role is, there's that natural expectation of progression. But as soon as you step into that role, you almost lose 50% of the control of your destiny in terms of results. Certainly at the start, maybe even more than that, and then it gradually decreases as you become more competent as a sales manager. But it's a big shock to people that they aren't expecting, is that all of a sudden you're relying on 7, 8, 9 people to deliver your number and uphold your reputation, your credibility. And that's a big step that I would say is one of the things that new sales managers are least prepared for.
100%. And I've had many a conversation with people wanting to, high performing salespeople who see their next step as a manager. And some people have gone on to do it brilliantly, And some people though have I've actually said to, two of them in particular, and they'll know who they are, and you'll know who they are when I won't tell you their names, but they both demanded a pay rise because the situation not a pay rise, a promotion, because their team in London, the leader left and went to the US. And there was a vacancy, and they both said, "We want it." And I said to both of them, "You are brilliant, brilliant salespeople. This is not for you yet." And it wasn't a negative on them; it was a positive on them. But they both pushed back, and they said, "No, we're ready, we're ready, we're ready." And they weren't ready. And now they're probably two of the highest performing sales reps we've got on the books. Because they went back into an individual contributor role. And they've never looked back. And when you say they're not ready, I think there's multiple ways that can be applied. May not be ready skill-wise, may not be ready mentally wise, may not be ready personal life-wise, because the demands of a manager are very different. Working at night, putting spreadsheets together. As I say, the mental challenge of when you think you're giving it your all and your salespeople aren't delivering, and then that drives the behaviours that you don't want to see as a sales manager, where you're stepping into deals and trying to do it for them. There's a whole raft of things there that need to be considered as to whether that person is right for that particular move into sales leadership, I think. Definitely. I was looking at this time as well, because we actually had a data set that we could draw upon to support what I was saying, because we did some assessments of capability, of competency, and motivation. And these guys in particular, the motivation was closing deals. 100% closing deals. And it wasn't about helping others. So I showed them the data and I said, "Look, guys, you're closers. You're not." Because that's what, as you get into sales management and you start to lead more, your success is driven by other people's success, and you come out with the spotlight a little bit because it's others who you promote into the spotlight. Again, I took a bit of time to adjust to that, and some would say even 5 years ago I probably wasn't doing a very good job of it, but it's something I consciously try and do now, because it's not my gig anymore. I don't need to be on the stage. I need my team to be on the stage doing the big things. And so it was a nice 360 that we saw there with those two individuals in particular. And
in a way, it's nice to hear that, because look, I don't regret anything in my career that I've done, and I've done various different things, and I've been in sales leadership. I think I got my first leadership role at 26 at BT, and was their youngest ever sales manager. But I wish somebody had done that, or had that data and had that conversation with me, because I absolutely wasn't ready. Now, look, the mistakes that I made back then have helped me develop and learn, but I actually feel sorry for the people that I managed back then, because I couldn't deal with incompetency. I just couldn't understand why people couldn't do it like I did it. And if they couldn't do it like I did it, I had no time for them, because they were costing me money and time. And then when they couldn't do it, I just did it for them. And I ended up just trying to close everything for everybody. And it was just, I look back at it and I almost cringe with how unsales leader-like my behaviour and approach to the role was. But I didn't know any different.
And I saw it with you as well. And I've seen it with me. And I see it all the time. And anything I ever do.
Just to be clear, mate, I wasn't talking about Western Union there. I was talking about way before. I think I was an accomplished sales leader when I joined Western Union.
We'll put a pin in that as well. Maybe we'll come back to that later. But yeah, it happens, right? Because it's natural.
Yeah.
The thing I say to all new sales managers is they'll never be as good as you.
Yeah.
If you're being promoted as an individual contributor, you're getting that promotion because you've succeeded. And whoever's in your team will never be as good as you. Your job is to make sure that they can be as good as they can be.
Yeah.
And then, is that good enough? If it is, brilliant. Coach them, enable them, support them. If it's not good enough, move them on, because it's good for both parties in that regard. But yeah, do as I do, do as I say. That's not the way forward. You know, I always say this: if I stood on a driving range next to Tiger Woods and watched him hit 100 golf balls, I still wouldn't be able to hit a golf ball like Tiger Woods.
Yeah, good analogy.
He's got to coach me how to hit the golf ball the way I hit it in a better way than I do.
Yeah,
I can't do it the way he does it, right? Lionel Messi, if I watch him taking free kicks 100 times, it's not going to make a jot of difference how I take free kicks.
Yeah.
All he's got to do is look at what my capability is and improve me to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I love that, H. Yeah, I've not heard that analogy from you before, and I love that. Yeah, that might be going on the little description for the interview, that one, mate.
It's 100% valid, mate. Across sales management, any management, it's 100% true.
So it's just skipping on a few stages, because I'm conscious of time. I can't believe half an hour has been eaten up already, and we've not even got past the introductions really yet. But you've then obviously gone on to significant senior leadership roles, I guess culminating in the ones at Convera. So your previous one, the head of sales for the UK. I've not undersold you there. That was the title, wasn't it?
There's a bit of Europe in there as well.
Okay, we'll stick Europe in as well. And then currently the global head of partnerships for Convera. That's right, isn't it? Global head of partnerships, or has that changed again?
It's partnerships, and it's our pension and payroll, global services vertical. So yeah.
And how?
It's a sales role.
Last question in terms of relating to sort of your progression in terms of your career. How do you find operating at that senior leadership level versus sort of first line level? What are the key differences?
Yeah, good question. I try and spend as much time as I can still with customers and with the team. Always has to be the priority. It's hard sometimes because there's quite a bit of managing up, managing sideways. Yeah. There's a lot of strategy. There's updates on goals and or everything like that. But yeah, where possible, I try and my goals every quarter are aligned to that. In that, I'm setting out to see at least 5 customers per month.
Okay, interesting.
I'm spending time with my team where I can. Obviously, I've got leaders under me who do brilliant things, and I actually took this new role in November of last year, and took me right out of my comfort zone actually, because I'm now working in a space that I've not really worked that much in 100% B2C payments, integrated partnership side of things. But I've inherited an awesome team who know loads more than I do. So I've been able to take a leap there and have them teach me stuff, which is great.
And I guess that plays into what we've just been talking about there, that there is no opportunity for you to try and teach them more about the role, more about the job that they're doing. You have to take that genuine leader stroke coach role because you haven't got the knowledge. They've got more knowledge than you.
And that's again, if you can build a team like that, that's absolute utopia as a sales leader, right? Because they should be better than you all the way through, and hopefully one of them will kick me out one day and they'll take my job, which is absolutely fine by me. But yeah, no, I never thought I'd get to where I am today. I don't want to go any higher, I'll be honest with you. I'm at the stage in my life now where I'm ready to start thinking about exiting working life and focusing on my golf handicap. But I've got 2 or 3 more years left yet, and one thing about me is, and you'll know this, I'm all in. I can't do my job half-heartedly. So it'll be 100 mile an hour or nothing. So for the next 2-3 years, for my team's benefits, they can hear this. It's going to be 100 mile an hour. But we'll do it we'll have fun. We'll work hard. Expectations will be high, and I've come in straight away and set really high goals for us to treble our revenue in the next 3-4 years. And that's going to need everybody to join in on that journey. But yeah, I love it. I never thought I'd get here. I wasn't trying to get here, to be honest with you. Again, when I left the software company, I went to Travelex as an individual contributor, and I said on my first day, I'm never managing salespeople ever again. Never. And 7 years later, I did. I actually managed the team that I was part of, the Old North team, which was awesome. I mean, so good. That first year, we hit target. Every single member of the team hit target. We did it in a way that you probably wouldn't do it that way today.
Well, it's going to be an interesting segue because the next thing I want to talk about is how things have changed over the last 25 years. And I hope you don't mind me telling this story. So one of the examples that I'll give is that, and I'll go back to the very start. So reiterating, as a sales leader, straight away, I just felt this feeling that I'd walk through walls for you. And I think that's a common feeling. Not everybody, but a common feeling for a vast majority of people that worked either for you or under you. And that was even when you were driving us hard. And one of the examples I'm going to give is that, and this is where I think sales has changed, and we'll get into this a little bit more. So when I ran the North Scotland and Ireland, or Northwest Scotland and Ireland teams, I still remember very, very well every single Tuesday on your command, the whole sales team from around the country drove into Peterborough. We drove from all over the country, Scotland, Wales, southwest, southeast, and we had to be there for, I think it was 8 or 8:30, so people were leaving at sort of really early o'clock. We stayed there, we made 60, 70 calls, or the sales guys made 60, 70 calls a day, and they did not leave until 5 o'clock. There was no exception, no break to that. And then everybody drove home after. And bizarrely, I think that was part of what created the strength of the team. People used to moan about it, but actually people, I think, used to love it as well. But have those days gone? Have they gone forever? Do you wish they were back? What's your sort of overriding view on how sort of field sales, but sort of direct, let's call it direct sales, has changed over the last 20 years, both in your world, but also at a more broad level?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few cans of worms in here, to be clear.
Try and dodge him if you can, mate.
No, all good. Head on, mate, head on. I think what we did at the time was right at the time.
Yeah.
Right? You said something at the start there about you running through a brick wall for me, and most would. Not all would, though. That's something that's changed in my mind now.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot more.
Yeah.
And what's the word I'm looking for? Differences are good, and it's okay to have maybe quieter salespeople who necessarily don't want to run through a brick wall and don't want to get up at 3:30 in the morning to do a 60 calls a day slog, because they can bring strength and capability in other areas. So I learned that over probably the last 4 or 5 years, to be honest. It was good at the time. I know there are people who worked for me back then who did not appreciate that approach and that style.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that then, because the majority did, and the weight of the majority was creating such a good spirit and such a good vibe. It did block out some of the naysayers, I'll call them, and I don't want to disregard them in that regard. So yeah, it has changed, because I think more diversity has got more voice now, and that's absolutely the right thing to be. Yeah. Right. No one. Try and recruit a university graduate today into a sales role and have them driving 4 hours to do a 60 calls a day, cold calling day. Yeah. They're just not going to do that. They've got choices elsewhere with remote working and distributed learning, everything else. So that's changed a lot. Do I wish it hadn't changed? No, I probably don't. Generally, time moves on for the right reasons, and I think what we're creating now is phenomenal as an organisation, as a sales culture that we have. 25 years in now, and I would say we've got a very different sales culture, but we've still got a strong sales culture, and that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not, and I'd agree with you. I think times do change and practices do change, but I'm going to ask you a question, and hopefully you'll give an honest answer. Do you think that kind of practice, let's call it practice, that kind of activity where people were asked to essentially go above and beyond and almost given no choice to, do you think that kind of thing built a mental strength and fortitude in salespeople that also translated then into other areas, so resilience, tenacity? And do you think that kind of thing is something that's decreased in commonality across salespeople these days, and actually that's because we're not maybe pushing them as hard or asking them to do as many tough things like that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I can probably speak from relative confidence when I say a lot of people who worked for me over the years and been on this journey like you have gone on to do great things elsewhere, or are still doing what they were doing originally, but put a lot of their success down to those tougher days, we'll call them, right? Yeah. So I think, for sure. Now, along the way, what I didn't do at the time was consider those people that were falling by the
Yeah.
wayside
Yeah.
and who couldn't handle it. And they've probably gone off to do amazing things in their career as well,
Yeah.
now in their own different way. And you know, I think that's okay. Now, today's salesperson, are they lacking in resiliency? I think there's a much different approach, and you hear it all the time. You don't need to cold call as much now because cold calling is dead. So I'm going to send a nice email, do a couple of LinkedIn approaches. I'm going to walk a floor at a trade show, and you hear it all the time, and it's like all business development is really important.
Does it trigger anything in you deep inside you when you hear that kind of stuff? It does. It 100% does.
It does, mate. It does, mainly because if someone's telling me that what they've done today from a business development perspective is send 60 cold outreaches via LinkedIn, I say to them, I don't think you're going to be successful, right? If you do 15 cold outreaches via LinkedIn, do 25 cold calls, send a few emails, then in the evening go and do a networking event. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Business development has to be multi-channel. You can't do it one way or the other. The habits of a buyer is changing massively, right? And AI is going to drive so much of that, right? So much of the buyer's decision is going to be already made by the time a salesperson gets anywhere near an opportunity.
So I'd looked at, and I did a post the other day about AI, and I know you'd sort of said it should be something that we discuss, so we might as well touch on it now. So I was always considering and looking at AI from a salesperson's perspective, so how it changes the sales process. So, tools like SmartWriter that can write emails have got a 3 to 5 times more likelihood of being replied to, proven facts. You've got ChatGPT that can write content for marketing stuff. You've got Canva that can produce marketing stuff. All these kind of different tools for salespeople, where salespeople that aren't using them potentially could be dropping behind. But you're talking more from a buyer's perspective then.
I think so, yeah, because and I'll be honest with you, I used an AI tool for the first time in my life last Friday.
Okay.
I asked it to design a coaching workshop for me, which it did.
Yeah.
Which I need to finalise it tomorrow. That's the first time I've ever touched it.
How did you find it?
Incredibly simple.
Yeah.
Incredibly simple. But I also saw last week, a member of my team actually over in New York, she posted something on LinkedIn and she said, can all salespeople stop posting content generated by ChatGPT? It's so obvious. And this is what's going to happen, right? You're going to have people banging out emails driven by ChatGPT that's so generic.
Yeah.
You're going to lose that personal touch. And if salespeople are going to do themselves out of a job if they've got to use it, but they've got to use it in the best way.
Yeah.
From a buyer's perspective, though, gone are the days where you just Google FX payments or best chip shop or best golf course to play. You don't do that anymore. They're going to go into ChatGPT now or AI and ask a more pointed question, and then be able to dive deeper when you get the answer back.
Yeah.
And these AI tools are feeding back Trustpilot ratings. They're feeding back, feedback references. They're giving you a steer. So, if somebody wants to know who the best FX and payments provider is in our space, ask ChatGPT, and you get a really interesting guide to it.
Okay,
that's
interesting.
Just about SEO anymore.
I might have a do at that, but I guess then that's something to be aware of and cognizant of from a salesperson and sales manager perspective. They should be doing the same thing, because obviously one of the key ways to handle objections is to get in front of stuff. So if they know that AI is spitting out either good or bad stuff about the business that they're working for, then they should be understanding what AI, I was going to say ChatGPT, but we can talk about any AI tool, is saying about their business, so that they can be prepped and aware of that before they're speaking to customers. That's an interesting point that I've never thought of before. First
rule of sales: the person who brings up the objection wins.
Yeah.
Right. If the customer brings it up, you're behind the 8 ball. You're up against it.
You give me a few snippets here, mate. I'm going to have to choose which is going to be best for the description. Well, it's just pearls of wisdom left, right, and centre.
I'm going to be charging $10,000 a day for this after 2 years' time. So
let's see how many views we get on this first. All right.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's if the customer says, "Oh no, you're too expensive," or if you say, "I know some people might think we're too expensive," but actually when you think you're ahead of the game and you're easier to win. So I think the sales profession today has to adjust to the habits of the buyer.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps for a long time in my sales career, it's been about what we do as sales.
Yeah.
That's shifting right now, and I think that's shifting big time into how are the buyers buying. And
Really good insight, that.
we've got to adjust as a
Yeah.
profession to do that process.
Good insight, that. I'm going to move on to, again, conscious of time, so I'm going to move on to partnerships. So I'm going to be honest here, mate. I don't think I've ever told you this. So I remember when you spoke to me about moving into the head of partnerships role, my immediate thought was, I'm not sure that that's the right move for H. And I'll tell you the reason why, because I always saw you as that, as we've touched on a few times, I've always seen you as that sort of old school, 60, 70 cold calls, you get in front of the customers, this is how you generate leads, salespeople are responsible for doing that themselves. And I always had a perception that your perception of partnerships would be, it's all fluffy, woolly, this isn't real sales. So I was a little bit surprised when you moved into that role, but I also can confidently back that up with having seen the work that you've done and having worked for you in the partnerships channel as well, that perception is, if it was the perception, is very much changed, and if it wasn't the perception, my perception was wrong, and you always believed that partnerships was a valid and fruitful way to generate revenue and opportunity into a business.
Yeah, I mean, I came into the partnerships role having spent 18 months in like a sales operations role,
right?
A global sales operations role, which was, whilst it was okay and good, it wasn't a sales role.
Yeah.
And I was bored, and it wasn't for me. I needed the chase. So as the opportunity presented itself, it was really important to me that I brought sales culture into that part. At the time, if you remember, we had partnerships built around the world, but it was very unstructured. There was no process behind it, no governance, there was no reporting. Trying to find out who our partners were and who the referred clients were was a night. It took me 6 months to dig into all that. So as a result of spending 18 months in a sales ops role, I had the structure and the agility to be able to spend the first 6 months in the role building out process and governance, which, if you'd seen me in Peterborough one of those days 10 years ago, and I'd have been saying, John, I'm going to spend 6 months doing structure, you'd have said, what you on about? But that helped me, because then getting set up in the first place allowed me to see who are we, what did we want to be, clearly define what a partner is, and we had multiple different types of partner structure. Some of them were very fluffy. We moved away from them in the end. But for me, it's a true extension of the sales funnel. It's certainly from an integrated partner perspective, where you're selling technology. That's been it's been a buzz for me for the last couple of years, learning that. And I've said to anyone, when I first took the role on, I didn't know how to spell API, let alone know what one does. So I've been able to get into that. The referral channel, really, really strong way of generating middle funnel of opportunity. By, working with a network to open up their network. It's still sales. It's just a different type of sales. It's sales leadership, effectively, because you're enabling others to do the work that your direct sales team would do. So,
and I guess you still have the same challenges, certainly in partnerships when I worked in it. And I wasn't working on the integrated stuff. I was more at the referral end of stuff, because that's where the UK was at the time. And I know it's moved on since then. But there's still the same challenges. You can still work on a partnership and waste a hell of a lot of time, and it get to a complete dead end or be a dud, and you launch it and everything looks great, but then it all falls over and nothing gets generated because the activation plan wasn't right. So you've still got all the same challenges. So I think you're right. For me, it is just a different form of sales, but needs a slightly different skill set and understanding of what partnerships are.
Yeah, I think hunting a new partner is very basic sales work. I think managing and enabling a partner is where the job differs.
Yeah, absolutely,
and you need
right.
A different skill set there. You still need to be able to hunt, but you're going to hunt from within.
Yeah.
But you also need to be able to be a strategic key account manager. You need to be a project planner. You need to be a cross-functional enabler to bring all the different people in, because each partner will have their own needs. I think what we did at the start, like any probably startup partnership business did, was went after everyone and everything, and we chased deals. Now we're at a place where the business, and this isn't part of my organisation anymore, so I speak about it from a distance, but this part of the business now is about chasing strategic deals that's going to really drive value long term by getting access to high value leads, and probably lots of them, rather than chasing one partner for one deal, which is what we did a bit of at the start. But we needed to do that to learn, to earn our stripes, to get our footprint in the land. And I think there's a really strong business there that's continuing to grow high double digits year over year.
Brilliant. Last thing before I let you go, I'm really grateful for the time that you've given up. Nearly an hour already, mate. It doesn't feel like that, which I guess is a good sign. So, to finish up, one bit of advice. So one or two. I'm going to ask you for two pearls of wisdom. What makes a great salesperson, and what makes a great sales leader? Just one thing that really stands out for both those roles. That really sets people apart, either that you've seen or that you would love to see more in both those positions, salesperson and sales leader.
So salesperson, definitely the pintability, I'll call it. Can you connect with someone?
Yeah.
Can you build a relationship?
Interesting. Okay.
That's the starting bit, right? Because if someone doesn't like you, you're not going to buy from you.
Yeah.
But that pintability is the wraparound, and within has to be skill and will.
Yeah.
Right. And that will piece is huge, because if you're trying to hunt elephants, you've got to be patient and take a long time. You'll never get lucky. You've just got to keep putting the hard yards in. You've got to get the multiple touch points with you, all the different contacts in the organisation. Make sure that internally, cross-functionally, you're aligned to go after these opportunities. So yeah, I would say pintability matched with skill and will.
Yeah.
And that skill and will has to be of equal. You need to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
And you need to work what's off to get there.
Yeah.
And I would say our top two salespeople, probably in Convera at the moment, are two of the very best salespeople that I've ever met, and two of the hardest working salespeople that I've ever met.
Yeah.
And the more they get, the harder they work. That's the thing about sales. As they'll say to you, work-life balance, not arsed.
Yeah.
I'll get there when I retire, and I'm living in Marbella or wherever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. As a sales manager, I think you need empathy. You need to be able to listen. I think you need to have a tolerance level, right? As you said earlier.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to one of my early sales managers many years ago, and he was so frustrated that his sales team just couldn't step up to where he wanted them to be.
Yeah.
It's like his tolerance level wasn't high enough. So, and above all else, you've got to just do what you do and enjoy it. You've got to be engaged, right? Because it's hard out there. So I think we've got a great job. It's tough at times, but allow people to work with freedom,
Yeah.
with a smile on their face. We're not saving lives here. Be successful. And if you're not successful, find out a way to be more successful next time, and don't make the mistake again. But it's okay to make the mistake in the first place, because that's what we're here for.
I love it. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm eternally grateful for, firstly, volunteering to come first. And secondly,
volunteering, you told me.
Yeah, no, yeah, same thing. I wouldn't say exactly told you. I invited you and just said that I'd love you to be first, and you thankfully accepted, and also giving up nearly an hour of your time. It's really appreciated. So I'll close the interview there, and we'll look forward to the next one. Thanks, H. It's been a pleasure.
Good luck, mate. Love what you're doing. Really
Cheers.
good. Thanks, mate.